This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, welcome to Josh Has Autism.
Hello.
Oh my goodness, Josh, we're back home.
Yeah.
That was a long week, wasn't it?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah. So, you and I drove back yesterday.
Yeah.
And 15 hours.
Oh my gosh. My butt still hurts.
It was a long drive.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And just being exhausted anyway because of
Yeah.
being there. You know, do you sleep the same other places as you do in your own bed?
No.
No? Do you sleep other places?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Whenever we lived in Florida,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd have D&D, I'd spend the night there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd come home the next morning.
Yeah, I was under the impression that you guys played till like 2 or 3 in the morning.
We do.
Oh.
Yeah, we
so
do.
at that point, you're just kind of wiped out.
Yeah.
You almost got to see your friends
Yeah.
in Florida this trip, and you had talked to them. They had invited you over.
Yeah.
We're looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah.
And
Then we realized that because Nana's in such a position that
health-wise,
that
Mm-hmm.
we couldn't do it.
right, because of COVID-19.
Yeah.
I know that people have different opinions about what that is, whether it's legit, whether it's, I feel like...
Better safe than sorry.
Well, sure, yeah, exactly. Because, I'd rather be the one, being fooled than the one causing harm.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
exactly.
that's how I look at it. But I know that we're both pretty wiped out, and but we were late last week because of the, me being in the hospital and everything. When
Yeah, not you specifically being in the hospital, but you being at the hospital for Nana.
right, staying in you're right, staying in the hospital, helping to care for her,
Yes.
and it's she gets better care that way. I mean, they were nice nurses, and
Yeah.
the doctors were really great this time. But, she's the only one I'm taking care of there, so, I can do it immediate instead of her having to push the button and wait. And
Yeah.
So anyway, something that I thought about is that Nana's having this recovery time, right? So she gets home from the hospital, and now she's recovering from that whole event.
Yeah.
And I thought about that it's different, but you have to have your own recovery time after events.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about that, and I saw like there's a connection. Like your processing takes a couple beats.
Yeah.
And it seems like your recovery after a stressful event especially, you need a lot of downtime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if there's time for it or not. you're gonna get the downtime because otherwise
I cannot function.
you can't.
Yeah.
Right. And what that looks like to me is that you just needing to be separate from everybody, by yourself, and you sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I misspoke when I said that we drove home yesterday, because we drove home day before yesterday.
Oh, okay.
But you slept most of yesterday, and you slept until noon today.
I slept more than till noon today.
Yeah. Well, I woke you up, and then you fell asleep again.
Yeah.
Right. But I understand that you need that time, and I just am saying it's recovery time because...
Right.
And I'm wondering about that because a couple of things happened this last trip. First of all, you don't like surprises. Like, you like to know what's happening.
Right.
You have things planned. You want to know in advance notice of things that are going to happen. So if you have a doctor's appointment, I need to give you a heads up on that.
Yeah.
Right. We need to go someplace. Somebody's coming over. Those kind of things. I try to give you as much advance notice as I can.
Yeah.
Well, when we got the call that Nana was being taken by ambulance to the hospital last week, you didn't get that notice.
Right.
And I went first, and you and Dad came that night, just a few hours later.
Yeah.
And what happens...
By a few hours later, we drove down there. You flew down there.
Correct. Correct. Which was another concern in and of itself, being on an airplane.
Yeah.
What I have found is that anybody that's out there that's flying, Southwest does a very good job, and Delta does a very good job of separating everybody, and they also sanitize the plane
after every flight?
Yeah.
Cool, cool.
So, what I was wondering about is how does it feel, and like what happens with you if there's if there's a difference, a small event that you weren't planning on versus a stressful situation like this. You weren't given advance notice. You were just, in this case, you had to just throw stuff together and go.
Right. Well, I would like to clarify something. That there is a difference between a sudden emergency thing happening right in front of me, where I have to act and do something.
Right.
But like what we talked about a couple of podcasts ago.
Right, that 911 call.
Yeah.
Right.
And different things like that. And as opposed to something like that has multiple steps to it. Such as you getting a call from Nana and having to leave immediately. And us having to pack up everything to bring down there. I mean, there's multiple steps involved in that.
Right.
And it's that kind of situation that has multiple steps that, oh my gosh, that makes it very stressful. Makes it very difficult to stop the mindset from prior.
To stop the mind. What do you mean? Stop the mindset from prior?
Like to shift my focus from whatever it was before what was going on to being, hey, I need to work from this step to this step to this step.
Right. Because just in daily life, multiple steps are hard for you.
Yeah.
Like that's something that you kind of historically have had some trouble with.
Yeah.
So we still work on what helps you to keep on track. And, if I'm going to tell you something, I do maybe like 2 steps at the most.
Yeah.
Do this and then do this.
And then come back to you.
And then come back and see me. Yeah, that's the most. Usually it's do this and then come back and see me.
Yeah.
Right. But, so that in and of itself is difficult then. I didn't think about that. It's you having to do the things that normally are difficult for you.
Yeah.
And is it that it's that in and of itself is the difficult part, or are you thinking that there's this particular purpose for us going down there?
A bit of both, but it's also that I'm having to think like 30 steps ahead.
Right.
And that's very difficult for me to do even 3 steps ahead.
Right.
So yeah, for me to try and think that far ahead is very difficult. And for us, we're like, oh my gosh, and we're like, okay, what am I going to need? We throw stuff together. We're worried about Nana the whole time, and you're like, ugh. Yeah. Step 1. Yeah, just a bit.
Yeah. So, coming back, though, I had given you notice of when we were going to come back, when we were going to leave. Told you what time we were going to leave. Tried to prepare as much as we could before that. but I told you what day, what time.
Yeah.
And so we drove back.
You drove back.
I drove back.
For 15 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Uphill both ways in the snow? No. No. It was 15 hours, though.
It was, yeah. And what about that was so exhausting for you that caused you to sleep for... Because I'm not complaining that you slept so much. I understand that you needed that sleep.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about you being sleepy and needing to, getting the rest. It's you needing to disengage.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good word for it, is to disengage and recharge.
Mm-hmm.
So it's... one of the things that happens is that I lost my train of thought. Could you please ask it again?
About disengaging. What was it about the trip coming home that caused you to need that? Going down there, I understand that it was all those steps you had to take, and when you weren't anticipating it, and it's difficult anyway.
Right.
The purpose in going down there. So then you and I drove home. It was a kind of a pretty stress-free coming home. I mean, as much as you can for being stuck in the car that long. And
having a couple crazy drivers go flying by us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. So what was it about that, or was it just a culmination about the week that you had down there?
I think it was kind of a mixture, but mainly the culmination of everything.
Right. And you've talked before about how anxiety feels in your body,
mm-hmm.
and how depression feels in your body.
Mm-hmm.
Can you describe what this feels like?
It's like a bone-weary exhaustion. It's like I become sluggish. Both physically and mentally.
Mm-hmm.
That's the main portion of it, is that I just become exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And think of it as like whenever adrenaline rush wears off.
Mm-hmm.
How you just crash.
Right.
Except it's not just physically that you feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just mainly in your upper body or whatever that you feel it. It's everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Well, also there's an aspect to it. I think is relevant when life still happened and I was on the road doing stand-up.
Mm-hmm.
It's that activity of waking up and having to think about each step that is going to happen.
Right.
Like I would have to think of, where am I going to get my coffee?
That was number one priority in the mornings.
Right.
Not that I drink coffee.
So if there's most of the time coffee pots in the room, but then but it was about how to do that. The kind of coffee was there the creamer that I can use.
Yeah.
And it was always that. It was just that, and then it's about where to eat, and then it's about just what's going to happen. Everything's so different. You just don't. I had to think about everything. Nothing was normal.
Right.
And
one thing that I will point out is that most of the time you would find out ahead of time, at least for things like if they had a continental breakfast, if they had a creamer there that you could have, or if you had to bring it with you. You'd ask these things before you'd have to go.
Well, it eventually got to, and the creamer thing, for people that don't know, I'm vegan, so I just don't drink, half and half or milk.
Right.
And so ultimately I just ended up bringing my own stuff.
Yeah.
I just got in the habit of doing that. But my point is that even though you've been to Nana and Pappy's house so many times, sleeping there and being there for the purpose that you were there, I just think throws things off anyway.
Yeah.
But then just waking up and not being in your own house. It would be like, it's time for you to eat. Well, and you're smart enough to know the good stuff is out in the freezer.
not just the regular freezer, the freezer in the garage.
That's right. And forever they've bought stuff that you like and stick it in there for you to find. Right, but when you're on your own house, you just know where your stuff is.
Yeah.
It's automatic.
Yeah.
And, having to think about stuff, I would imagine, wears on you more than probably me.
Yeah.
So when events are stressful and when events are sudden and when there are events or situations that need your concentration for a long period of time, do those all feel the same to you, or do they feel different?
Generally speaking, they're fairly similar. So much so that most of the time there isn't a difference. So it also depends on outlying situations, such as how long it occurs for, such as is there another situation that arises during this instance
Mm-hmm.
that may make it more stressful or not as stressful. Things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That can either drain me a lot faster or just a lot more.
Mm-hmm. There was one time, one night, it was the night before Dad drove home.
Mm-hmm.
Because he came back early because he had to be back at work.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was the night before he was going to leave, and you had been sleeping on a this blow-up mattress that that was in the office, their office, and he and I we were in, I call it my bedroom.
Mm-hmm. It's the single guest bed. It's the only guest bedroom.
But I just think it's mine.
Yeah.
So, anyway, but it's where Uncle Tracy sleeps when he's there. He's there right now.
Yeah.
And we kept on taking turns with Nana duty.
Yeah.
But anyway, then you slept on the couch.
Yeah.
And
that couch is comfy if you're sitting on it, not necessarily if you're laying on it.
Right. It's comfortable for me, but I'm a lot shorter than you.
Yeah, I'm literally just an inch too tall for it.
It stinks. Anyway, that night it was pretty cool because, and not this part was cool, but what you did was pretty cool. And I think that goes back to that part of you saying when things are sudden, instant emergencies, you're really good at it in those situations. Like your superhero shows up. So Dad was in the bedroom, I was in the office, and
on the blow-up mattress.
On the blow-up mattress. And I slept in there just so that he could get some sleep, but And Nana had an asthma attack.
Yeah.
And so she came clanking out of her bedroom with her walker, apparently, and she said you were there at her saying, "Nana, are you okay? What do you need?" Before she even realized you were standing there. It was just like it's like that movie. I don't remember what it was, Mr. Deeds?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
That dude. Yeah.
He
would show up.
He
would just show
there.
up.
He wouldn't even just show up. He's just there.
Yes.
The butler.
Yeah, the butler. That's what you did. You just like, boom, you're there. And Nana was laughing about that later, too. Like, what did he do? How did he... Like, she's like, Josh? And then when she got further into the house, then it woke me up because I'm such a light sleeper. I wake up for everything, but you're usually not.
Right.
So the fact that you were just up like that is, again, goes to what you were just talking about.
Yeah.
But I noticed that you had to separate from all of us often during the days because, there were a few of us there.
Yeah.
With a lot of activity and a lot of,
yeah,
caretaking going on.
Yeah. And it wasn't just that either. It was, that was for the most part what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes my back would just start hurting, so I'd need to lay down, and the only comfortable place would be on like a bed or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't go on a Nana and Pappy's bed because that's theirs.
Right.
So I'd have to go lay down for a little bit just to feel better.
Yeah.
But with that being said, it was mostly where I'd have to just go and be by myself for a little bit to be okay if you guys needed me.
And that at that point, was that the exhaustion that you're talking about, or was that different? Was that just kind of like when you came home and virtually slept for a day and a half? Was that just the buildup of everything that you just worked through?
Yes.
Over the week?
Yes. Think of them as a quick recharge while I was there,
mm-hmm.
so that I could be prepared for something if it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And when we got home, it's the full recharge.
Mm-hmm. Right. And, we talked about last week, too. It was the stress of going over to, Chrissy's house.
Yeah.
And being there, and that made you sad. And,
yeah.
So that was included as well. Just kind of like an emotional overwhelm through all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know that you needed to just rest and, just be left alone because you do have a new car here. And you haven't been in it since we got here.
Yeah.
Like, we pulled in, you went to bed.
Yeah, yeah.
So, day and a half later, here you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're feeling better now?
I am.
Good.
I am.
Good. Is there anything that you can describe or that you know of that helps you to be able to handle those situations and get you through them? Because
could you repeat that?
Yeah, like this whole week.
Mm-hmm.
You were having to engage and have conversations and interact. And how did you handle that? How did you work through that and do that and be available as you were that whole week?
Quick recharges really helped.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't think I would have lasted the entire week.
Okay.
Without crashing, like, whenever I get home.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I was wondering about is because you mentioned the feeling kind of lightheaded.
Mm.
And is that something that goes along with this? So when you've just taken as much as you can take, and in this case, when you were saying that you felt lightheaded, does that go hand in hand, or is that something different?
Sometimes, but not always. It's like one of those things that side effects may include. One of those kind of things.
What else may it include?
Let's see. Lightheadedness. Dizziness, yeah. Antsiness. Like, almost like a tingling in your limbs,
mm-hmm.
in your arms or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to do something, but you just can't.
Did you feel that the whole time, or just towards the end?
Occasionally. I'm saying that in general, of what things have happened to me in the past.
Right. When you're feeling like you're at the point you can't take anymore.
Yeah.
and just everybody leave me alone.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
even when it can't happen,
Yeah.
I think driving home was, you did sleep some, but not much.
Honestly, I was awake the entire time.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, because I have a really hard time sleeping in a vehicle
Yeah.
when
you're not driving.
I almost said it, and then I'm like, wait a second.
I'm driving. Don't wake me up.
No, but, no. Whenever somebody else is driving, I like to be apprised of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult for me to sleep because of that.
Right. Me too.
And especially with us being in a vehicle that hasn't been driven very far,
Mm-hmm.
On a long distance trip before, I'm not going to sleep during that.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, how did you, I guess it's the last question that I have for you about this, is how did you work through taking the steps that you needed to take when it was time for you to go down there?
Honestly, a lot of it had to deal with experience because of all the trips that we've done to see Nana.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily whenever she's going to a hospital or something, but
Most of them were not. We used to, so you went to school in Pennsylvania, and she lived in South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way that it was most of the time.
Right.
Before that you were too young, I guess.
Oh, no, I remember before then.
You do?
Yeah.
But you didn't do the packing before then.
Right, that's true.
So all of those trips, whether it was Christmas or just vacation days or,
Summer.
Thanksgiving, summer, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Funny though, back then, what was your priority to pack were books.
Yeah.
And
or things to keep me busy on the ride, yeah.
Yes, and that now you have the books on your phone.
Yeah.
So you have to take, so that's a lighter load.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So it was experience. How could you calm yourself down to do that if you didn't have that experience?
I know that Dad was stressed and very busy doing what he was doing. So, with that being said, I even checked with him. Even this time, I double checked with him. Hey, is there anything specific that I need to bring? Could you please run me through a list real quick?
Mm-hmm. Right. I think that is helpful. That's something that we've always done.
Yeah.
So to help you to just verify, to double check, we go through a list.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool that you thought about him helping you with a list.
Yeah, and that's honestly one of the biggest points that I can make for someone who does not have the experience to pack things.
Mm-hmm.
That is, to have someone who is experienced, like a parent or a guardian or somebody like that, help you to either make a list or talk you through a list of what you need.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So that's probably one of the biggest points of packing that I can make.
Right. Just have a list, just to go down it and double
Yeah.
check and right. Yep,
Yeah.
that makes sense. But you're feeling okay now.
I'm still a little bit tired,
Yeah.
but I am doing a lot better.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Well, is there anything else that you want to talk about with this? Because that's pretty much, I was just wondering how that felt for you and how you dealt with it and how you got through it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked about the various side effects, or not side effects, but like the various things that can occur on the side.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't really talk about how it feels directly, I don't believe.
Okay.
So, one of the biggest things is that it feels like I am just under the surface of the water, walking through through water like that.
Mm.
Because I'm overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
I am trying to focus on what I'm doing, but not necessarily succeeding all the way.
Right.
Because of all the things that are going on around me.
Mm-hmm.
And the stress of the situation is making it so that I can't properly focus on what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And because everyone else is focusing on their own thing at the time, just feeds into that analogy of walking just under the surface of the water.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very difficult to try and work through it on your own.
Well, I also think that you feeling that way, it's just so important that you have opportunities to just not have any demands put on you.
Right.
And so that the expectation is, that others don't have expectations of you at that time, to understand that you just need to have as little responsibility, I guess,
Right.
as possible.
I would like to point out something, though. And that is, on the way down there, I actually did drive for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked out perfectly. And things went very well with that. And the whole reason for that was because Dad had been up all day and needed to drive for most of the way there.
Mm-hmm.
And he needed just at least a couple hours sleep.
Right.
So I did that for him, and he was perfect for the rest of the time. So it was...
he can sleep. The way that I sleep is when I'm in the passenger seat and I'm trying to sleep. Every bump I sit up. Ah!
Yeah.
I mean, I might not be yelling like that, but that's how it feels.
Yeah.
Just every bump I feel, it just
Which there's like 3 bumps every second or so, but
it's pretty crazy. Yeah. Yeah, you did, and that was a big help because he had been up since 6:30 that morning. So
yeah,
that was super important. So that's really that. I think that's key though. Is that even when we go on vacations, you need your vacation. You need your downtime. You need your time away from everybody. You
right.
need to,
even after the vacation.
Mm-hmm. To not always be engaged in conversation or be asked to make decisions.
Right. Right. And one of the there is something else I'd like to say in regards to the walking underwater kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Is that during the actual time of being down there, as well as the drive down there, it was nowhere near as bad as it was whenever it was just all of a sudden, hey, you need to pack.
So,
which I did make.
So that was the worst when we got the call, and then everybody had to move fast and get their stuff together and go. That was the worst part of it?
Yes.
Okay.
Of that underwater feeling like that, yes.
Right. Huh. Interesting. Because at that time you had the most responsibility.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Somewhat, yeah. Because
it's those steps you had to go through.
Yeah, so it wasn't exactly the responsibilities that were thrust upon me. It was all of the different steps that I had to do on my own.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, it's not necessarily the responsibilities. It was all of the steps that I had to take.
Mm-hmm.
And remember.
Right. Yeah. I think that's something that's just been so cumbersome for you.
Yeah.
Regardless of the situation, but you add stress, an intense, we gotta go.
Yeah.
That makes it worse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to point out that you guys asked me if I wanted to go this time.
Mm-hmm.
No, you do every time.
Mm-hmm.
But this time I said yes.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And it really seemed to me like this was kind of like, you remember how Grandpa
Mm-hmm.
was in the hospital and we had to hurry down there?
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up being okay. But this situation really reminded me of that.
Yeah, it felt like it was different, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It felt like this might have been it.
Right. Yeah, I think that was the concern.
Which it was for Grandpa as well during his thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I understand. So it makes everything stressful.
Yeah.
And uneasy, uncomfortable.
Yeah. I still didn't go to the hospital.
I know, yeah. Right.
But I did make sure that I was there for Nana when she needed me.
When she came clunking out in the middle of the night. Yes. Yes, you did. Oh, well. Well, very cool. Thank you for putting words to that, because I wasn't sure what part of that was so difficult. What was the part of this whole thing that really was the most overwhelming to you? Because I know the whole thing was really not comfortable.
Right.
So, yeah, so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks everybody for listening to us and hanging out with us again today. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Please do the 5-star thing, because that helps us out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any suggestions or comments, please send it to me. Go to my website at sonyaking.com, SONYAKING. You can find podcasts and blogs, and pretty soon there's going to be a schedule up because things are starting.
Yes.
Yes, I got for comedy, I got a headlining gig January 1st.
Is it January 1st?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
So things are starting to move along,
Cool.
open up and everything. But anyway, on my website we can get the stand-up schedule and also our speaking schedule.
Yeah.
It's starting to open up for us as well again, because everything stopped.
Yeah.
For everybody.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
So anyway, so you can find that stuff there, and anyway, we just appreciate you hanging out with us, and
Yeah.
yeah. So I hope you all have a good day. Love you.
Bye.